Time now for Talk of the Town. Nick Rothschild is with me. And Nick, last week was sort of a front office frenzy. I mean, we had the Nuggets naming co-executive vice presidents, no general manager. And then we had the Rockies. Dick Monfort makes a change at the top, well, right below the top. And, so we'll see how both of them will work out. But let's talk Nuggets first. Executive Vice President Ben Tenzer, basketball operations. Executive Vice President John Wallace, player personnel. No general manager. Josh Kroenke said it's unorthodox.
Right.
Nobody else is doing this, but it's a bit unorthodox anyway. He's not the team president. He's the vice chairman of Kroenke Sports Enterprises. So whatever you call him, I don't know. We'll see if it works out. But at least we kind of know what the front office is going to do now.
Yeah, we won't know if it really works probably 5-ish years down the road. Don't get caught up in the titles. Just think of it like a power triangle, right? You've got Josh Kroenke is in charge of the Nuggets, and then below him is two little vice underlings will be running the operation.
Vice underlings?
Yeah,
I like that.
exactly.
That should be
I actually think this could work, Lionel. I like the idea if Josh is willing to delegate and let these guys do their jobs, then it should all work out fine. They can stay in their lanes, focus more on the things, break up the GM job into two separate entities and focus on those two separate entities. Then, yeah, I really think this has worked. They're both smart guys. They both can make this work. It makes me a little concerned that there may be some overlap, some confusion, both internally and externally, teams working with the Nuggets, that may get in the way of this thing really coalescing and coming together for this specific year.
You know what? I'm totally not worried about, who do we call for a trade or who do we call to work out the Stanley Cup? They're going to know who to call, other teams, when they call the Nuggets. I'm not worried about that. Tenzer is obviously the business guy. He should be called manager of aprons for the second apron or the first apron or who knows what's going on. And Wallace is obviously going to handle the team players on the court. So there, I think, even though they've got similar titles, there is definitely a specific role for both of them. So Tenzer needs to handle the business side and find a way to work out contracts and get Michael Porter Jr. out of town and sign Bruce Brown, find out how to do that. And then Wallace has to bring in, as he said, more shooting and more defense as well. So they've got jobs to do here as we go into next season.
Okay, that's great. But what was the issue with Michael Malone and Calvin Booth? Differing views on how the team should move forward. Now you have not just two guys that have their views input here, 3, maybe even 4 if you include Josh Kroenke. So if you continue to add viewpoints, you continue to add an option for disagreements. And so long as all these guys are on the same page and they agree on stuff, it will work. The problem is what happens when you start to have disagreements.
Well, I tell you what, they won a championship, right? Booth was up here. Malone was here. Champions. I think egos got out of control. Malone's like, I know what I'm doing. Do you? And Booth's like, I built this team. We're NBA champions. I know what I'm doing. And I think it just got so toxic that Kroenke said, and he did say this, you're both out. And I think Tenzer and Wallace are like, okay, we know who's who in this deal, and we know to stay in our lanes, and I don't think that's going to be a problem.
Yeah, Booth was here. Malone was here. Tim Connolly was over there. He's who built that team, Calvin Booth.
All right, well, let's talk about the Rockies now. Dick Monfort announced that team president Greg Fiesel is moving on after this year, and then Monfort hired his son Walker to be the team president, and that's fine. Walker's a business guy. He's not a baseball guy, okay? Corporate sponsorships, sales, and all that. Fine. Dick, you move away. Young Walker comes in and hopefully says, you know what? We have to make a change on the baseball side. Bill Schmidt has to go as general manager. Bill Schmidt has to go, and Walker has to see what he needs to do with some vision of, like, we got to bring in a baseball guy from the outside who knows what he's doing to rebuild this team. Dick Monfort said as much in an interview with the Denver Post. We need outside eyes. Charlie said it too. Now Walker's got to say it, and Bill Schmidt's got to go.
Yeah, it's one thing to say it to the Denver Post if you're Dick Monfort, but this, I don't know, maybe I'm looking at this through purple-tinted glasses, but I actually think this could be a step in the right direction. Greg Fiesel was totally overmatched for the job that they put him into. He was not long for that job, regardless of who they moved in there. Around here, we don't love it that Dick Monfort sort of runs this organization very insularly, and promoting Walker Monfort could look like that. But the Monfort's no business, folks, and that's going to be Walker's role. And maybe bringing in a little bit of younger blood, maybe a little more ego to get this baseball team back on the right track and win. Perhaps you start seeing him impose his will in bringing in somebody from the outside to help this team win, to help put the Monforts back on the map of winning baseball.
All right, Nick, thanks a lot. Good stuff as usual.